Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live with NORML. I'm J.M. Padini, the Development Director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. It's Friday, March 7th, 2025. You know what that means, friends. We're going to talk about all of this week's cannabis, science, and policy news, and I'm going to answer your burning questions. So let's get right down to it. Hey, take a quick second to drop a note in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. Everyone who just joined us on Instagram, thank you so much. Go ahead and hit that like, follow, or subscribe button wherever you're watching so you never miss when NORML goes live. We try to do this every Friday at 4 o'clock Eastern. Hey, Nick. Welcome back, friend. Hope you're doing well in Pennsylvania. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's been a busy week when it comes to legislative action, as many states are in session around the country. Some have already ended their legislative sessions, like Virginia, and some are just getting started. Hey, Curtis in Georgia, do I think it'll be legal this year? Do I think what and where? Do I think legalization will succeed in Georgia this year? No. Hey, Chris, happy Friday to you in Hampton, Virginia. Hey, Dennis, good to see you. I don't think I have any news from North Carolina for you today. Do you have any news for us from North Carolina? Hey, Fred, happy Friday. Hey, Queen Jane, happy Friday to you. Hello. Smell your own. Peace. Hey, Tribal Nation in Vegas. Hey, Jazzy in Florida. J420 in Michigan. Hey, Skid. Hi, Mike from Chicago. Hey, David. Welcome back. Good to see you. All right. You all work on you all work on your questions. I'm gonna work on telling you about some news. Nick says nothing is always in Pennsylvania, just typical politicians pushing everything off on the governor. Isn't that convenient, Nick? Nonetheless, still need to hear from you, whether they're shirking their responsibilities or not. So let's talk about what happened this week. Hey, Dave in Tennessee. Nick, Queen Jane says Pennsylvania is a nightmare. It sure is something. We'll start off with some good news. So you all may remember that on election day, there were some local initiatives, and in particular in Texas, there were 3 cities that were voting to pass local ordinances. You can call them decriminalization ordinances, you can call them depenalization. What they really do is make marijuana possession of the lowest level priority for enforcement within those localities. Now, this has been a really successful effort by some activists in Texas called Ground Game Texas. They've done a really excellent job at organizing the passage of a number of these local measures. And Attorney General Ken Paxton is big mad about it and has been filing suit against every one of these efforts. Now, the latest one is Dallas, and this is a really big city, so it's going to impact a large number of people in Texas. And the litigation is underway. The lawsuit's been filed by Attorney General Ken Paxton, and what they wanted was to prevent this ordinance from being implemented at all, of course, and certainly prevent it while the the lawsuit continues. But that's not what the judge thought should happen. The judge said, nope, you go right ahead and implement that ordinance while the lawsuit continues. You can read all about this on the NORML blog. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, you'll see that I dropped that link in the chat for you. I'll try to send that link again to YouTube since it likes to cut them off. If you're watching on Instagram, we'll have all of these stories, not only on our Instagram, but they will also be, they're also on the NORML website. You can head to norml.org. You can see some of them on the front page, and then the rest of them will be in the news section. Yeah, exactly. Hey, White Marley, that's exactly what we were talking about, is the local ordinance in Dallas. And so that can go ahead and the city can proceed with implementing that ordinance, even though there's litigation pending from the Attorney General trying to prevent it from from taking place at all. Of course, he's not been successful yet in a single one of these cases. Hey, Pam, good to see you. Hey, doctor, welcome back. Steve says, I just want Tennessee to be medicinal already. I don't think you're alone in that sentiment, my friend. Hey, Mike in Anaheim, welcome back. Hey, Critical Thinking, thanks for following us. All right. All right, we talked about Texas. Let's, what else do we have that was good this week? This one, okay. You're going to have to buckle up for this one because there's a lot going on with this story, and it's pretty wild. So Montana has a bill. There was a bill introduced in Montana. Let's say it like that. See if I can fix this. There's a bill introduced in Montana, and there was a hearing this week for it. And what this bill wanted to do was limit the THC content that could be in legalized cannabis in Tennessee. So it wanted to impose a 15%, you heard me right, 15% THC limit on adult use cannabis in Montana. This is Senate Bill 443. There is language in this bill that I wanted to see where the quote was, that equates higher THC cannabis products with slavery. I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, on what planet is that an appropriate or accurate analogy? More concerning is appropriate. You didn't just say it with your out loud voice, you put it in a bill, in a piece of legislation. I'm looking to see if I can find the ridiculous language. Oh, here we go. This is in the preamble of the bill. It says, quote, "We reject the slavery of addiction that comes from the high potency THC industry and its destructive products." Wild, wild. What is happening? So, thank you, Queen. I cannot control it. Here's the good news. First of all, opponents of this bill outnumbered people who were there to support it more than 2-1. Second, the bill was tabled. Now, that doesn't mean that theoretically it could not get picked back up off the table. That happens, but it's pretty rare. I've only done it once in my 10 years lobbying. It's not dead, but it's tabled. So anyhow, good news, but wild. I know, Chris, that literally, that is, yes, that happened. Pamela says, grim news from DC when you're done with the good. You tell me what the grim news is that you wanna share. Drop a note in the comments. Yeah, okay. So let's move on from that. This is like a shower from my brain. Thanks, Montana. I don't think the rest of it is gonna be fun, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. We're gonna do all the legislative stuff first. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you. I just wanted to know. Just wanted to know what exactly, because there's plenty of bad things coming out of DC. We'll do Idaho, because why not? Okay, Idaho, not to be outdone by Montana. Idaho opened its own big fat bag of crazy this week and did this. The House passed a resolution that would prevent the citizens of Idaho from ever having the ability to put marijuana legalization on the ballot. Yeah, that's right. That's right. This resolution would provide the legislature with exclusive authority to decide marijuana policy. Idaho is a state that has a ballot initiative process, but lawmakers are so afraid of their citizens legalizing cannabis that they want to take that constitutional right, Constitution of Idaho, they want to take that constitutional right away from Idaho voters. So this resolution, House Joint Resolution 4, awaits action from the Senate. If it's approved, here's the most ironic part of the entire thing. If this resolution is approved by a Senate, the measure would go before voters in the form of a ballot question in 2026. Yep, there we go. Yes, Zach. Exactly. Zach says they're going crazy trying to reset everything we voted on. Yes, and it's happening around the country. We've seen some wild things in our time, but this legislative session, well, many sessions, but around the country, it's the things they're bringing this year are literally insane. There are attempts, as you mentioned, Zach, there are attempts to roll back legalization and medical cannabis provisions across the country. There are efforts to skyrocket taxes on legal cannabis products. It's wild. Hey, Tyler, thanks for the question. Tyler asks, will Tennessee ever open their eyes to legalization? Well, the people in Tennessee are Americans, and Americans support legalization at a rate of about 70%. However, Tyler, my friends, elections have consequences. And in Tennessee, you all have managed to elect a legislature that doesn't even want you to have access to medical cannabis. So we've got some issues there. That's really what Tennessee could be focused on right now, is enacting some measure that permits some use of some type of medical cannabis. If you're in a state like that, you could get someone to introduce a legalization bill, but it is not going to be the path forward. Not with the legislature you have there. Yes, Zach. Ohio is also very special at the moment, for sure. They have a very limited medical, I mean, even calling it that is, they have a very limited medical program in Tennessee, is how I would politely categorize that. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. Let's see, we have it way down here in the states with medical CBD / no THC laws. So basically the lightest level that you could have and be considered a state with some type of access. Right now in Tennessee, they can possess cannabis oil containing no more than 0.9% or less THC. So they do have a list of conditions, a made-up list of conditions in which they feel like these people can possess this low THC oil and everyone else can go to jail. So that's what's up with Tennessee. Hey, Brady, welcome back. Yes, Pamela, fair elections have consequences. I'll get a little sign to add to that sign that someone made me. Yes, Zach, Ohio is trying to rewrite legalization as we know it. Voters approved one set of legalization laws, and lawmakers think they have better ideas than the voters. Queen, yes, Queen asks, what about cancer patients in Tennessee? Yes, cancer is one of the qualifying conditions in Tennessee. I'll drop a link to the Tennessee medical cannabis laws page in the chat for everyone. Hey, Ryan, welcome back. Ryan's got some comments about Virginia and the governor. Ryan says, we need to bombard Youngkin's email and office staff emails in support of legalization of retail sales. You can use our action alert to do just that. It will, in fact, email the governor. He's not signing that bill. We all know this. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't send him plenty of emails about it. Like, plenty. You can use the same action alert, the same link over and over and over. Just change the title of the email. And Ryan, since you mentioned it, I will go ahead and drop a link for you. Here we go. I'll drop a link in the chat for you, Ryan, for those bills, for the action alert. Hello, LinkedIn user. That's all it tells me. It doesn't tell me what your name is, but you're asking about Connecticut, and let's see. Okay. LinkedIn user says, please support Connecticut Bill HB 5429. The bill I crafted and was introduced by legislators on my behalf to create a medical cannabis caregiver program in Connecticut that mirrors Maine. Okay, well, we don't have an action alert at this time for it. It's not to say we can't, but you can message us. You can email us at policy@norml.org. And if Morgan or Paul like it, then they'll put it on the ACT page. Yeah, I see. Insulin, hello, hello. And also John, hey. 4D chess. Yeah. Daniel, maybe don't buy that stuff because it's gross. Let's talk about that. Okay, we did Idaho, we did Montana, we did Texas. Oh, as nice of a segue as that was, I am gonna talk about Nebraska so we can get all of this ick behind us. Brady says make cancer a Schedule 1 substance. I mean, it's terrible. New Jersey's bill, which New Jersey bill? Queen Jane. Huh. Hey, Josiah. Josiah says CBD, Connecticut. Connecticut has restricted CBD to 0.1% THC. So CBD is CBD and THC is THC. I understand what you're saying, but I think we should be careful when we talk about these things. You could say a CBD product. You could say a hemp product, but let's not call it CBD because it's a different molecule. I don't think we're going to solve all of our financial woes with weed, Brady. But some people think that they're going to fix capitalism with cannabis policy. That'd be fun. They're not. Hey, Coco, thanks for joining the chat over on YouTube. That's where the chat is. The Instagram chat's quiet. Hey, Jay Curry watching on Instagram. I'm seeing your question now. Sorry, it took me a second. Asking about Virginia, been legal for what, 3 to 4 years now? Yes, 4 years on July 1st. Way overdue. Yes, way overdue. But apparently Virginia's governor prefers drug dealers and likes illicit operators selling, unregulated marijuana-like products to children at every corner store. Hey, East Side Willie, you've come to the right place. Scroll up. Hey, Critical Thinking. Critical Thinking says it's a chronic pain patient. I'm waiting for legalization in North Carolina in the worst way. Yeah, North Carolina's got a way to go. So does South Carolina and Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Critical goes on to say, better yet, legalize it federally. Why wish for a loaf of bread when you can wish for the whole store? Right. Even when federal prohibition ends, it will still be up to each state to enact their own measures. So, you may have great access in a state like Colorado, and then you could still see really terrible access or none at all in a state like Idaho. I don't know about those smoke shops in Florida. They're making terrible choices. Critical Thinking, I like that you mentioned this. I don't know why my glasses are so dirty today, but I literally can't see. Critical Thinking says it's ridiculous to regulate the potency. Much better to have a variety of THC levels in the various types of cannabis. Yes. So in the United States, potency is regulated, THC content is regulated, but it's regulated not by percentage, not in, I mean, yes, there are some states that have these, like we were just talking about, Tennessee with these weird percentages, but in a real regulated cannabis market, what you see is milligrams per serving, because that's where it matters. That's like, if I buy Tylenol, I'm not looking for the percentage of acetaminophen that's in a tablet. That is so irrelevant to me. What I need to know is this a standard Tylenol tablet that has 325 milligrams of acetaminophen, or is this an extra strength Tylenol tablet that has 500 milligrams of acetaminophen? And that's, we apply those same standards to cannabis. So, you know, that's what the limits are. Most states are going to be either 5 milligram per serving or 10 milligrams per serving. There's the two most common. 10 is far more common and more popular than 5 milligram limits, which is arguably a better public policy, because if you really dramatically decrease the amount of THC that a consumer can legally access, they will seek it out from the illicit market, and then you are not achieving the goals of legalization. And then when it comes to, you know, like a concentrate that someone vaporizes, or then there's flower, you know, that someone would smoke or vaporize. That's, flower's got its own sort of natural limit. You're not really going to get above, you're going to get up to 30, but you're not going to get above 30. So flower's got its own built-in natural regulator of THC content, if you will. And then when it comes to concentrates, when you limit the amount of THC that can be in a concentrate product, then manufacturers will fill in the rest, right? Right. Let's use Virginia as an example. In Virginia, the only thing that's in a cannabis, like vape cartridge, is cannabis oil. There could be terpenes in there also, but you can't add in weird filler ingredients. That's not permitted, and it shouldn't be. But that's what happens when states try to regulate the amount of THC and artificially drop it down. Then you get those filler ingredients in there, and that's not what you should be inhaling. You should not be inhaling medium chain triglycerides. That's not what belongs in your lungs. So it is better to have a higher concentration cannabis oil in a vape cartridge, because then the consumer is only going to use as much as they need, and it's going to be far less. Like, right, like beer and vodka. You could this is like a regular, this is about the size of a regular pint glass. You could have a pint glass of beer. This is iced tea. You could have a pint glass of beer, right? But you're probably not going to have a pint glass of vodka. Let's just give consumers some amount of credit. It was a really terrible idea to have people who do not understand cannabis science, cannabis consumers, or cannabis policy, making cannabis policy decisions. And that's what we're seeing around the country with these THC potency limits. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Oh wow, there's a lot I missed on Instagram. Sorry, I am trying to catch up on all of that right now. Ooh, hi, Ahimsa. Who should I email regarding internships at NORML? You can email me. You can just email intern, I think it's internships@norml.org. Oops. Yeah, try that. Try internship or internships@norml.org. There's also a web page for that. Not that I can share it with you because you're watching on Instagram, but I'm gonna I'm gonna look it up for you real quick. See if I can tell you what it is. We have a web page called Apply for a NORML Internship. It's norml.org NORML-internships. There you go. So do that. We love having legal interns at NORML. Please apply. Jesus says, I hope they never make it to Schedule 3. We have no idea what's going to happen with the rescheduling process under the current administration. But I'll tell you this, it doesn't matter. From a consumer standpoint, it doesn't matter. It's what's significant. There are two things that are significant. What is most significant about rescheduling marijuana from 1 to 3 is that is the federal government abandoning its long-held flat earth position on cannabis. For decades, federal government has been saying marijuana has no medical utility. Now, here's the federal government, or at least parts of it, coming in and saying, we think that marijuana does have medical applications. And that's what moving it to Schedule 3 most meaningfully does. Second thing it does, potentially allows existing operators, people who are running businesses in legal cannabis spaces, it potentially allows them to take standard tax deductions on their businesses. Right now, they can't do that. But there is a thought that if marijuana is moved to Schedule 3, then they will potentially be able to take those tax deductions. That's good for consumers because a product that's more affordable to make means lower prices. Moving marijuana to Schedule 3 does not give it to big pharma. If anyone is still repeating that narrative, they're not a serious thinker about this. That is not what that means. The FDA does not regulate plants. The FDA at no point in time is going to say, hey, you know what we do? We regulate plants. And even though this doesn't comport with any of our existing criteria for making an FDA approved drug, suddenly we've decided this one plant is magic and we're going to do that. They're not. They don't regulate plants, and marijuana, botanical cannabis, does not fit the structure that exists for FDA approved medications. It's not going to have any impact otherwise on regulated cannabis in the US. Every state that has a regulated cannabis program, adult use or medical, is in conflict with federal law with marijuana under Schedule 1. It will be exactly the same under Schedule 3. It doesn't change anything other than the 2 points that I just mentioned. So we can all stop weirding out about that. Now, that's an administrative process. If you want marijuana to be descheduled, like NORML does, like NORML has advocated for years, marijuana needs to be removed from the Federal Controlled Substances Act altogether so that states can set their own cannabis policies without threat of federal interference. That requires Congress to pass a bill and the president to sign that bill into law. That cannot happen through this administrative rescheduling process. That is not a part of this process at all. It is not on the table. When we are talking about potentially rescheduling marijuana to Schedule 3, descheduling is not an option in that conversation at all. That is entirely separate. Could it be done by Congress? Absolutely. But you have to stop electing clowns to represent you. We do not have a Congress today that would even bring such a bill to the floor for a vote. We have before. The House has done so many times. The House has passed a bill that would have descheduled marijuana many times. So there you go. Hi, SZ. That's what I'm going to call you because that's too many letters. So hello, SZ. I am well. Thank you for asking. Joe Mama, what you talking about? Veterans. It sounded funny. Veterans in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina states without rights. You mean that they can't get medical cannabis through the VA? That's nationwide for sure. Critical. I'm glad that you like that. Jesus, you're welcome. All right. You all have great questions today, and I'm trying to keep up with all of them. Jesus says, I would still like to grow on my property. And yeah, a lot of people would like to do that if you're in a state that permits personal cultivation. Even if it's legal in your state, you still might not be able to if you don't own your home. We don't. Oh, okay. Twitch. I know what you're talking about. Twitch just says, has the patch used in NORML content been produced for awareness of veterans and medical cannabis? I think you're talking about, there's an image of a soldier and they have a cannabis patch on. That's, it's a stock image. It's not actually ours. So it probably exists somewhere. I think that's the one you're talking about. I have just generic cannabis patches here in my office. I don't have, they're like leaf shaped. I have a green one and a rainbow one. Well, I have more than one, but that's the only kind we have. I'm sure someone made it. I don't know who though. Hey, Justin, I see your comment. Thanks for hanging in there. I am going to look at it. Here we go. Justin is in Virginia. Justin says, why is there no medical facility in the Shenandoah Valley? For example, you live in Harrisonburg, you have to drive 2 hours north or south or southeast to use your medical cannabis card. What's the valley or state got against a dispensary? Nothing. Actually, the license for that part of the state, Virginia, has been tied up in litigation for approximately 8 million years. Ultimately, the first licensee had their license rescinded, and the state did another round of licensing. Now that has been awarded to AIR. Here's what's happening now. Just as entirely predicted, there are lawsuits saying that people who did not win that license are mad, and so they are suing the state. I think there are 7 lawsuits now for HSA 1, Health Service Area 1. So while the entity that did win the license, AIR, is moving forward with developing the area, it's still being slowed down by these frivolous lawsuits. So that's what's happening. Justin, however, you can get delivery in your HSA. If you need help with that, you can email Virginia NORML at info@virginianormal.org. It's Virginia spelled out. And we'll point you in the right direction. Hey, Josiah, thanks for telling me about this bill in Connecticut. House Bill 6377, Josiah says, a cannabis justice reform bill crafted in Connecticut to stop illegal arrests of cannabis patients. Yeah, please email us at policy@normal.org to tell us a little bit more about that. I believe that we only have one action alert up right now for Connecticut, and that is on House Bill 6325. So yeah, definitely reach out to us about that one. Coco, I see your comment about Hawaii's 1064. I'm looking to see if we have an action alert on it so that I can speak to it. But if we don't, I probably can't, but you can tell me about it. Is this a bill to repeal provisions of Hawaii's medical cannabis law? Tell me more in the comments. But we are seeing that around the country. Ivana, no, I have not read the DCC annual report for 2025 out of California. I suspect that Dale Geringer, who is the executive director of California NORML and serves on the NORML board of directors, has, though. Daniel, I'm glad you're back. Daniel says he thought our show wasn't around anymore. It is. We're here. I know insulin. There are some states, insulin says the states with adult use markets and no allowance for personal cultivation make my head spin. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. Washington just rejected, Washington legalized a long time ago, and they're one of those states that doesn't permit personal cultivation, but has legal, medical, and adult use. Yeah, Josiah, since you mentioned that about talking about CBD products in Connecticut, like in so many other states, these hemp products are, may have stricter regulations or prohibitions than federal law, and that's permissible in the United States. That ruling was just happened in the Fourth Circuit. This is in Virginia, is where it happened, and states may enact regulations that are more strict for these so-called hemp products than federal law. Chucky, I think we're giving you that science right here. Correct, Daniel. Youngkin is done. Governor Youngkin, this is the end of his term here in Virginia. I need a call-in line. So I guess if I had a call-in line, Twitch, then I'd need a person to answer it for me. Hey, Tio, good day to you as well. That's not ready. All right, let's see. Nick, I don't know anything about this, but I'm going to, on your word, trust you and put it up here. Nick says that on Easter Saturday, so that would be 4/19, the annual Kutztown, Pennsylvania Cannabis Festival. Oh, April 19th, right there. Coco, I'm so glad you said that. Coco says more cannabis science without skewing results. You can't even trust certificates of authenticity anymore. Correct. I don't think you ever could, unless it is regulated by the state. So, and then even then, it could be poorly regulated. If a lab is not a third-party analytical laboratory, first of all, it's got to be third-party, and it's got to be qualified. It has to be a lab that is qualified to do this type of testing. If that lab is not licensed and regulated, then you have no reason to trust what they're doing, what that COA says. Critical thinking, I see your question. I'm going to hold on to that for later. Yeah, absolutely, Coco. Individual state programs are not sufficient for the entire country. It's just it's what's happening in the laboratories of democracy that states are supposedly under federal prohibition. What the hell is that? I know, right? 30%. Isn't that funny? Whoop. Daniel says, I still wish prices would go down. I mean, they have a bit in Virginia, but still quite high in prices. You will specifically see prices on products that are made by GTI, which operates as Rise. You can get their products in other areas of the state, but they have intentionally lowered prices. I'm not saying other operators haven't. I only know directly from them that they have intentionally lowered prices. Without competition, it's going to stay high. So it is not that competition doesn't lower prices. In Virginia, you have low patient participation because you have a low volume of dispensaries. Dispensaries aren't everywhere. The state can only have, under its current model, and does not have all of these operational, by the way, but the current model for medical cannabis in Virginia permits only 30 total dispensaries for a state with 8.5 million people. That's ridiculous. And we have an entire portion of the state that does not have its 6 dispensaries. So that's the biggest problem, is that there are too few access points for the state, so people are not participating in the program on a robust level. There's about 100,000 patients in Virginia. That's really what's keeping prices high, is the lack of access points. I want medical. I don't know if you're talking to me. I assume not me, Coco. Maybe someone else in the comment. But you say you want medical classification of cannabis the same way alcohol potency is marketed? I don't personally know. I want it labeled with milligrams per serving and then percentage for inhalable products. Yes, iced tea. What's the percent of caffeine? I don't know, but probably not as much as coffee. What? Get out of here with that nonsense. Hey, Melissa. Good to see you, friend. Hi, Dawn. Happy Friday. I didn't, Braddy. Here's what happened. Braddy asked if I talked about how the White House invited Don Murphy to talk about legalization. So it's actually Howard Wooldridge, is this one of the founders of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, now Law Enforcement Action Partnership, something, whatever. LEAP has a new name. Howard's the guy who wears a t-shirt that says, ask me about why we should legalize cannabis or something like that. And he rides his horse. Anyhow, Howard was at this group, called a work group, but I don't think it's a work group. This event that has been going on for some time that's conservative. And at that event, Howard was invited to share some policy proposals, and then Howard and Don partnered up on that to put that together. So I hope Don is invited to the White House to talk about policy. Has there been more about it? Did he tweet about it or something? I'm looking real quick to see if there's anything. Let me know if you saw more, if you heard more. But I did know about it starting with Howard and then looping in Don. Hey, Connecticut NORML. Also, I know, Queen, your comments are killing me. It's hilarious. Nick, your state's okay. Your state, Pennsylvania, has been talking about having state-run stores. There's a reason why no state has state-run cannabis dispensaries. It's because marijuana is federally illegal, and there seems to be serious legal concern over having state employees sell a product that's federally illegal. That's why no state's doing that. Now, states are doing that with alcohol. Virginia's one example. Florida did it for a while too. But yeah, that's a terrible way to do that for weed. Okay. Whew. Nobody's suing homeowners for growing their own tomatoes. Yeah, there's someone's making a comment about slang, and there are a lot of slang words in the cannabis space that we tend to avoid here, but marijuana isn't one of them. That's what Americans call it, and that's fine. That's not the point. The language that you use in casual conversations with the public, you want to use language that they understand, and you want to meet them where they're at. That's okay. When you're writing laws, you're talking to lawmakers, you want to use very different language. No, Josiah. Look, this is a hill we're prepared to die on, and this is something that we know a lot about at NORML. We do say that Schedule 3 does not hold it, it does not hand it over to Big Pharma. We are not lying. We've talked about this extensively. That is not how it works. The FDA does not regulate plants. The FDA has a structure through which it brings FDA-approved medications to market for prescription. A Schedule 3 drug is available by prescription only. Botanical cannabis, which is the context in which we are discussing rescheduling, is only for botanical cannabis. It does not meet those criteria. It doesn't matter if Connecticut thinks it's a pharmaceutical. That's irrelevant. We're not talking about Connecticut. We're talking about the federal classification. The FDA is not going to approve botanical cannabis as a Schedule 3 drug available by prescription. It is not set up to do so. I'm just going to leave your comment here for a minute, Brady, while I catch up. Whew, Coco, you're not kidding. Hey, Vanity. Good to see you. No, Schedule 1, 2, and 3 drugs are not available over the counter. They are available by prescription. Wow, okay. Okay. Hey, Melissa, again. No, we're not selling weird stuff in our chat. Leave, please. Vanity, I am super happy that medical cannabis is helping you. I love that. I'm glad that's working out for you. Josiah, Josiah, so when Connecticut legalized medical cannabis, they used the Board of Pharmacy as their regulator. I'm intimately aware of this because Virginia did exactly the same thing, because at the time we only had one place to stick it, and what happened is we said Board of Pharmacy has to do it. We've since made our own regulator and taken it away from them because ick. but it, for a while, was also contained within the CSA of our state. It's not. We just took it out. You can do that too in Connecticut. You can remove it from your CSA. You can give it its own definition somewhere else in code. It does not need to be in your state CSA. Our actual regulatory model for medical cannabis in Virginia was initially based on Connecticut's regulatory model because those two leaders for Board of Pharmacy in Connecticut and Virginia were friends or colleagues, whatever. Jacob, hey, thanks for joining us. Jacob says, what are we going to do about Idaho just passing the bill where citizens can't vote on cannabis on the ballot? So we did talk about this extensively at the very top of the show. You can find the link in the chat on Facebook, or you can find it on the front page. It's on our front page. This is a House Joint Resolution. House Joint Resolution 4 was approved by the House in in Idaho, and it is being sent over to the Senate. Now, if the Senate approves this resolution, here's the most delightful irony. It goes before the voters in the form of a ballot question in 2026. So voters in Idaho will be the ones deciding whether or not they can vote to legalize cannabis, or do they want to give up that control entirely and make it just something that the legislature can do? So that would be the next part of this process, is convincing voters that that ballot measure should be voted down. Brady, tell you something good out of Georgia? Okay, well, we have two bills up in Georgia that we are supporting. Number one is HB 41, which is a penalty reduction. And number two is HB 22.7, which is a medical cannabis bill putting Georgia's Patients First Act. So that's what I can tell you. The better, I can tell you that HB 22.7 crossed over. So the House approved it and it's in the Senate now. So that is good. Oh, Coco, why didn't I go to Spanibus with Ian? I am very glad that Ian can afford to do that. Ian's great. Daryl, what's HB 160? Is it in Ohio? Oh, yes, got it. We're opposing that measure. We have that on our Take Action page. 474 letters have been sent through that versus SB 56 in Ohio, which we also oppose. 17,000 emails have been sent through that action alert. But we do have an action alert specifically for HB 160 opposing it. I'm going to drop that. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm going to drop it in the chat for you now. John, what? Hey, John, since you mentioned this, John is saying that Virginians should vote for Abigail Spanberger for governor. I'll tell you this, John. If Virginians do not elect a governor in 2025 who will sign an adult use retail sales measure, then the next opportunity they will have to enact retail sales in Virginia is 2030. Jacob, I hope that I hope I got, yeah, I got your comment, Jacob. I see it. Okay, let's see. Florida needs marijuana reform so badly. Sup, bro? Yeah, sure do. You have a really robust medical cannabis program in Florida with nearly just shy of 1 million patients, which is extraordinary. Uh, but it's overpriced. Participation in the program is super overpriced in Florida. Um, and, you know, they're working to run another ballot measure in Florida for adult use. So thanks for getting that question in there, Brady. I see you. Hey, Melissa. Melissa asked, so if the FDA can't regulate botanical cannabis, could they regulate edibles or concentrates? That's not what the rescheduling process covers. The administrative rescheduling process, the current one that's on pause, but that one is specific to botanical cannabis. Yes, Spanberger does get an A from NORML. That is accurate. Hello, James. Critical thinking, there will be some lobbying coming up in DC in April. I don't know the specific day. We're just part of the coalition, but I'll look at it and talk about it on next week's show. I did say that I would. There we go. Your other question, critical, was what kinds of things can we do in addition to writing our state and federal representatives to legalize cannabis? You can write them, and as you should, you can call them and talk to them. Make sure you're on the email lists for your U.S. senators, your U.S. member of the House, for your state senator, and for your state other chamber, whatever it's called in your other house in your state. Make sure you're subscribed to all of those emails, even if you didn't vote for them. That way, you know when they're having events, so you can go and talk to them in person. And it doesn't matter if you don't like them, if you hate them for other issues. If you want to talk about this issue, you just have to go and be super normal, super polite and regular. You want to look like, be like, and I know this is hard for some people to hear, but you really just want to go and be like every other constituent that's there, every, mom and dad and uncle and grandma who's there. You just want to blend in with those people. That's what lawmakers, particularly conservatives, need to see, is that you are just a regular constituent of theirs who cares deeply about this issue. The other thing, in addition to writing, calling, and interfacing in person with these people, is make sure you are helping get out the vote for candidates who do support the reform you want. You can see where the candidates stand on cannabis policy in NORML's voter guide. It's called Smoke the Vote. It's available at vote.norml.org. So that's a great resource, not only for yourself, but for making sure that people in your network know when to vote, how to vote, that they have a plan to vote. That is so super critical. And then supporting candidates who do support what you want is also critical. Maybe you can donate to them. Maybe you can volunteer for them. Do whatever you can do, but help mobilize around the issue and around candidates who will do the work that you want to see done. And most importantly, make sure you are subscribed to NORML. Go to norml.org/subscribe and make sure you're getting NORML News of the Week on Thursdays, NORML's Weekend We Read on Saturdays. And if you have not yet joined, please do. There is one organization that represents the interests, and solely the interests, of the responsible cannabis consumer. That's NORML. Whether you're a patient, whether you're an adult use consumer, if you are a consumer, the only organization that is dedicated solely to representing you, your rights, and making sure that your voice is heard in the public policy debate surrounding cannabis in the United States is NORML. We've been doing this since 1970. For over half a century, We have represented consumer interests. That's what we're here to do. That's why we're doing the show today, and that's what we're going to keep doing with your support. So make sure you join NORML for 2025. Couldn't even remember what year it was. Oh, I'm so glad to. And then Critical says, yes, I do read your voting guide every time I vote. I love it. That's great. Yeah. Yes. Brady's been here for a minute and says, do not show up at your state capitol building with weed or smelling like weed. Yes. Look, protests are something that people are certainly, at least for now, entitled to do in the United States, but it is not an effective measure for changing cannabis policy, particularly in the states that are left. If that were a meaningful way to change public policy, it would have already happened. Now you have to think about it from like a point of, almost from a point of infiltration, right? Because in a lot of places, they still have this preconceived notion about what people who care about cannabis policies look like and act like, and you need to not be that. You need to be the voice in the room that can be taken seriously. That's what we do. Thanks for bringing that up, Brady. Thanks, Brady. I am over 50, both me and NORML, so appreciate it. You guys have great comments. This is hilarious. Okay. Swink. So I believe it is the 2026 ballot that they are looking at for Florida. Smart and Safe. I was like, what is that campaign called? Smart and Safe Florida. Yes, it is for the 2026 ballot. You can sign the petition. There's a petition available to get legalization on the ballot in Florida for 2026 at smartandsafeflorida.com. Be sure you complete the petition legibly in blue or black ink. I just dropped a link to that in the comments, but it's smartandsafeflorida.com. If you are in Florida, please sign it so you can get it on the ballot. And then remember that you have to get the supermajority vote that's required for that. It's not a simple 50%. No, I don't have, well, hey, Aunt, asks any news on Georgia. I did talk about earlier about the 2 bills that we have action alerts for in Georgia, and there's a medical cannabis bill in Georgia that has crossed over from the House to the Senate. Yes, HB 227 is a medical cannabis bill in Georgia, and it's crossed over, so that's great. There's an action alert at norml.org/act. Please send that to your lawmakers. And then there is a penalty reduction measure in the House, but all I can see is that it's introduced. It's 21-year-olds born in the 60s need to stick together. Someone asked me on a call yesterday how old I was and prefaced it with like, not to be rude, but like, yes, it's rude. It's rude, yes. But I answered the question anyhow, because I just like the face people make. Jeff, I love it. Jeff says, Canada's been legal for how long now? Everyone's still alive. People still show up to work. I think they're all out of excuses at this point. Yeah, absolutely. There were a number of stories that we didn't cover because we talked so much about state actions this week, but they will be in tomorrow's email. So you can get those in your inbox. You can find them on the NORML website as well. I do want to mention one more before we go. And this is a consumer warning that we have up on the NORML website. If you're subscribed to our emails, you definitely got this email this week from us. You got a version of it last week as well. And it is what we have been talking about here today. Legal cannabis is under attack across the United States. I am not being hyperbolic. I'm not pulling your leg. This is for real. In Republican-led states like Idaho, Montana, Nebraska, Ohio, lawmakers are pushing bills to recriminalize marijuana and cannabis consumers. And then in Democrat-led states like California, Maryland, Michigan, and New Jersey, lawmakers there are seeking to dramatically hike marijuana taxes. Now, NORML is, of course, fighting back against these efforts, but we definitely need your help. It is time for the cannabis community to rise up and make your voices heard. Your lawmakers need to hear that responsible consumers are neither criminals nor ATMs. They are treating you in some states like cash cows. Please don't let them continue to do that. With your support, we can defeat these measures. And in some cases, we already have. In South Dakota, we worked to defeat legislation that would have repealed the voter-approved medical cannabis law. In Montana, we pushed back real hard against that 15% potency limit bill, the one, the slavery bill. That bill's been tabled. And in Virginia, we defeated multiple bills that were attempting to remove employment protections from people who work in manufacturing and utilities. And we also defeated a bill that wanted to strip away your constitutional right to be free from warrantless searches. This was a bill that wanted to bring back the ability for police to say, "Oh, I smell marijuana," and then just search you. Who cares about the Fourth Amendment? There's so much more work, though, that we still have to do. Of course, in Ohio, Senate Republicans voted to gut the legalization law that was approved by voters in 2023, and that eliminates a number of consumer protections. One of the parts of that bill would make it illegal for an Ohioan to purchase legal cannabis products in other states. And another part of that bill criminalizes an adult, 21 years or older, sharing legal cannabis with another adult, 21 years or older. In Nebraska, of course, they're attempting to repeal patients' access to botanical cannabis. In New Jersey, they're trying to hike taxes on cannabis products and jail consumers who purchase cannabis outside of a legal dispensary. Here's the thing. Public support for legalization, it does remain as strong as ever. It's upwards of 70% across the US. Still, these hard-won victories of ours, like legalization in Ohio, like legalization in Virginia, they are under siege from legislators across the nation who believe that they can thwart the will of voters and not pay a political price for doing so. You need to show them that they are wrong, that there is a price to pay for engaging in nonsense like this. So if you haven't yet, be sure you join NORML. Make sure you are with us in fighting back against these attacks that are happening across the country. Oh, hey, Tio. Yeah, Tio says the nose has made many victims before any Fourth Amendment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know, Insulin, doesn't that? So I think that Insulin says, how the heck would Ohio even enforce purchase in another state? It sounds expensive. So I think that the intent is that if I find you, if I catch you with it, and it's not from here, then I'm going to get you. Anyhow, this is what's happening across America. It has to stop. And the industry is not coming to save you. But we're trying. All right, friends, this has been a blast. It is way after 5 though, so we're gonna bid adieu to all of you. Let me tell you that in March, the 2025 Kentucky Cannabis Conference and Expo is coming up. This is March 14th and 15th. You can get tickets from Kentucky NORML on their website, which is kynormal.org. You can find them on Instagram as well, and Facebook, of course. And then coming up in July, oh wait, I missed the other one. Shoot. Okay. I'm going to open the calendar and look at it. And that's probably, oh good, it didn't crash everything. Okay, coming up in April and in July. Let's do July first because I just posted that. The National Cannabis Festival is in DC at the RFK campus. Not that RFK, the other one. July 18th and 19th. This is a 2-day event this year. Tickets are, I believe they're on sale now, and they will sell out. Yes, early bird tickets are on sale now. So make sure if you want to go to the National Cannabis Festival, you go ahead and get those tickets now. They will definitely sell out. And then coming up, that was so good. I just closed it. Coming up in April, there it is. April 28th is a Monday. It will be in Washington, D.C., the National Cannabis Policy Summit. I will have more details for you as those unfold, but this is a free event. It is produced by the National Cannabis Festival, and we will be there. So I'd love for you to come see us at the National Cannabis Policy Summit, April 28th as well. When I have registration details, I will share those with you. Critical, thank you for joining. I really appreciate your questions. Same to you, Tio. Hey, Brad, I see you. Thanks for watching, buddy. Mike, thanks for joining. And Brady, I know I lost your question, but I remember what it is. I'm scrolling to see if I can find it for some reason. Brady, here we go. Brady's question says, I got one last question for you, Diane. It's a whole new world of weed out there. What type would you suggest we try out? The only type I would ever suggest someone who's interested in cannabis try is legal cannabis. Thanks for the different version of that question this week. All right, friends, this has been a blast. Please hit that like, follow, subscribe button wherever you're watching so you never miss when NORML goes live. If you've just joined us, I'm so sorry, we're done. But you can rewatch this back on our YouTube. All of Live with NORML is there. It's also all on our Facebook as well. I am J.M. Padini. I'm the development director at NORML. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And as always, I'll see you right back here next time. Bye-bye.